Who's there?
Of the origin of the Hound of the Baskervilles, there have been many statements, yet as I come in a direct line from Hugo Baskerville, and as I had the story from my own father, who also had it from his, I have set it down with all belief that it occurred even as is here set forth.
He's still not back, Lady Agatha. No sign of him from the upstairs windows either.
You shouldn't have allowed him to go, Perkins.
It's not my place to stop Sir Henry if he wants to go out.
He doesn't know the more as we do. You know how treacherous it can be.
Indeed I do, ma'am. Only yesterday another pony went under the mud at Grimpen Mire.
False step, there is sure death.
Anyhow, Barrymore's gonna fetch him back.
Good. I'm expecting a Mr. Holmes and a Dr. Watson shortly. Let them in the minute they arrive.
I will. Will you be wanting tea?
Yes, for four. Sir Henry will be joining us, I trust.
Ah, there you are, Lady Agatha. Not late, am I?
You'll never know how thankful I am for your presence, Watson. Where is Mr. Holmes?
Oh, he'll be along shortly.
I've arranged for tea.
I hope you don't mind my saying so, Lady Agatha, but you do seem distraught. It's not like you at all. It's something I always remember from our time together at the hospital. And that's nerves of steel and a disposition to match.
Thank you, Watson. I appreciate that. To tell the truth, I have been on edge. Desperate, some might say.
Desperate?
When I heard you and Mr. Holmes were on holiday nearby, I wasted no time getting in touch.
Well, it wasn't exactly a holiday. Holmes has always been fascinated by the grim charm of this locale. Something about the prehistoric people who used to live here.
You mean the stone huts dotting the moor? They do give one the feeling of another time.
It's downright creepy if you ask me.
I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a skin-clad, hairy man crawl out from one of those huts.
Doing what, may I ask?
Fitting a flint-tipped arrow to the string of his bow.
Well, I'm not one that's given much to flights of fancy. Imagination is more in Holmes's line.
I'm looking forward to meeting him.
And so you shall, Lady Agatha.
A great pleasure for me, Mr. Holmes.
How kind of you to say so. I trust you enjoyed your walk on the excavations at Grimpen Mire. The south section, I do believe.
How do you know I've been there?
You left your walking stick outside. That tip is coated with the reddish clay that is only found in that area.
You live up to your reputation.
Judging from the consistency of the clay, I would say you were there within the last 3 hours.
Bravo!
Ooh, I'd be cautious if you take your schnauzer there. They have a tendency to move impulsively. Miniature, I should imagine.
How do you know I even have a dog?
Teeth marks on the walking stick. Obviously the dog is in the habit of carrying the stick from time to time. The jaw, as indicated by the space between those marks, is not large. That, and this small puff of silver grey dog fur, leads me to surmise miniature schnauzer.
You really are an automaton, Holmes. A calculating machine. There's something positively inhuman about you at times.
You take my breath away, Mr. Holmes.
Elementary.
You said you needed our help.
I do.
I take it your request concerns itself with the recent demise of Sir Charles Baskerville.
It does.
London papers said it was a heart attack.
An elderly gentleman, if I recall correctly.
Over 80.
But you suspect foul play.
What makes you say that?
Well, he would have hardly called upon my services if the situation were not grave.
I've always considered myself a rational woman. Watson can vouch for that.
Absolutely.
I've never taken the occult seriously.
The occult.
Perhaps this will explain.
Early 18th century. Unless it's a forgery.
It is no forgery.
What is it?
I'm not unfamiliar with the contents. It purports to describe the origin of the curse of the Baskervilles.
The curse?
Come, Watson. Common knowledge.
may be common knowledge to you, but it isn't to me.
The exact date is 1742. Sir Hugo Baskerville was a villain, a coarse man, given to excesses of intemperance and rage. And then one night, he came to love, if that word can be used for his sort, a village girl. He kidnapped her, kept her prisoner in this house, while night after night he and his foul companions revelled below. Probably in this very room.
He has much to answer for.
But then one night, with the aid of the stout ivy outside her window, she made her escape.
Good for her.
There's more to it than that, Watson. Sir Hugo gave chase over the moor, his companions in drink riding at his heels. He outdistanced them. Sir Hugo's companions found him on the moor by the two great stones.
You can see them from the windows. They mark the door to some long forgotten temple.
I have seen them. Frightening things in the moonlight.
When they came upon the spot, the village girl had expired, fallen dead of fear and fatigue.
And Sir Hugo?
He was by her side, also dead. But that wasn't what terrified the friends that found him.
What did?
Read it for yourself.
And plucking at his throat, there stood a foul thing, a great black beast, shaped like a hound, yet larger than any hound that ever mortal eyes rested upon. And even as they looked, the thing tore the throat out of Hugo Baskerville.
Many of the family have been unhappy in their deaths. Sudden, bloody, mysterious.
Surely you don't believe all this mumbo-jumbo?
Well, it is obvious the Baskerville Road encountered. I counsel you by way of caution to forbear from crossing the moor in those dark hours when the powers of evil are exalted.
Powers of evil indeed. It's a fairy tale.
Sir Charles believed in the curse.
As I recall, Sir Charles was only in residence for a few years.
That is correct. His business interests, mainly those in South Africa, kept him away.
Who looked after Baskerville Hall?
The Barrymores, a married couple. He acts as butler and she as housekeeper.
Still in service here?
Oh yes, it was Barrymore who found the body. It was Sir Charles's habit each night to take a walk before retiring.
But never onto the moor?
Never.
Because of that silly legend.
Watson, please. Do continue, Lady Agatha.
The night of his death, he went out as usual. He never returned.
No sign of violence on the body?
None.
At his advanced age, he probably passed on from cardiac arrest.
Exactly.
Who performed the police autopsy?
I did.
The coroner's jury accepted the medical evidence?
There was no reason not to.
Lady Agatha, it's not what you're saying that interests me, rather what you're not saying.
If you weren't a private investigator, Mr. Holmes, I would suspect you of being a psychic.
Why not come directly to the point?
I believe Sir Charles was frightened to death.
Proof?
Within the last few months, it became increasingly plain to me that Sir Charles's nervous system was strained to the breaking point.
I asked for proof. Facts.
The expression on his face was one of sheer terror.
Easily explained by a muscle spasm.
There was one false statement made by Barrymore at the inquest.
Oh?
He said there were no tracks on the ground around the body.
You said a false statement.
Perhaps Barrymore didn't see what I saw.
Which was?
My motive from withholding it from the coroner's inquiry is that a person of science shrinks from placing oneself in the position of seeming to endorse a popular superstition.
In other words, you did see footprints.
Yes, a distance off, but fresh and clear.
Why conceal the fact?
I've already explained my reason.
The footprints are man or a woman's.
They were the footprints of a gigantic hound.
Beg pardon, sir. Lady Agatha. Sorry. It's Sir Henry. He's cutting across the moor now.
Oh, thank heaven.
You're the housekeeper, I take it.
Yes, sir, Mrs. Barrymore.
How long have you been in service at Baskerville Hall?
Oh, it's quite all right, Mrs. Barrymore. This is Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
I've been in service here most of my life.
Then you know them more.
I grew up on the moor, Mr. Holmes.
Mrs. Barrymore and her husband know more about Baskerville Hall than anyone in the county.
If you have no other questions, sir, I'll see to my duties.
I have no other questions at this time. Remarkable woman. Reminds me of Amy Smalls, the noted axe murderess of Charing Cross.
Ah! So you finally caught him in your net, Lady Agatha.
Henry, you mustn't wander all over the place until you know more of it.
Nonsense. I stuck to the paths and the light was excellent. Was visiting with Kathy.
I sent Barrymore to go and look for you.
It's a pleasure for me, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, but I'm not Holmes. I'm John Watson, MD, a former colleague of Lady Agatha's.
You'll forgive me then.
I take it from the timbre of your accent that you spent some time in America, Sir Henry.
The States and Canada. I'd still be there if it weren't for the death of my uncle.
Surely you don't believe all this bold and dash Lady Agatha has been spouting? I beg your pardon, my dear.
Watson has never been noted for an abundance of tact. But do you share Lady Agatha's doubts around your uncle's death?
I haven't made up my mind.
Show him the letter.
Letter?
Oh. This came one morning at my London hotel.
Words cut from the London Times and gummed to the paper.
Rather old-fashioned gambit, eh, Holmes?
Arsenic is old-fashioned too, Watson, but it does the trick.
How can you tell it's the Times?
Oh, Times print is entirely distinctive. These words could have been taken from nothing else. As you value your life, or your reason, keep away from them more.
Nothing supernatural about that.
Well, it might have been said by someone who was convinced that Sir Charles's death was unearthly.
Who?
Someone trying to frighten Sir Henry from Baskerville Hall. No envelope, no stamp.
No, just stop under the door of my hotel room.
Do you intend to remain in residence here, Sir Henry?
There's no man on earth, or devil in hell, who can prevent me from staying in my own home.
I take that as a final answer.
Absolutely.
Then you did well to seek me out, Lady Agatha. May I keep this?
Of course.
Anything found near the body?
The stub of Sir Charles's cigar. 2 stubs, actually, and a great deal of cigar ash.
Curious. There is no other claimants on the estate, I presume.
There were 3 brothers. Sir Charles was the elder. The second died young.
That was my father.
And the third?
Roger Baskerville, a black sheep, fled to Central America and died there of tropical fever.
Supposing that anything happened to our young friend here, you'll forgive the unpleasant hypothesis, who would then inherit?
Since Roger died unmarried, the estate would descend to James Desmond.
A distant cousin.
Is there any other kind?
Watson, please.
He's an elderly clergyman in the village of Tracy Coombs.
Quite close, actually.
It's a short drive.
Who else profited by Sir Charles's will?
There were many insignificant sums to individuals and a large number of charities.
He was a generous man.
Yes.
The Barrymores each received £50,000.
He was generous.
Did they know they would receive this sum?
Sir Charles was fond of talking about the provisions of his will.
Unwise.
I hope you won't suspect everyone had profited. After all, Sir Charles left me 100,000.
Sorry.
You will take the case, Mr. Holmes?
Huh?
You will take the case?
Oh, out of the question.
But you must!
We've been counting on you, Mr. Holmes.
Well, I'm due Bristol sometime tomorrow, and then I must spend a few days in London.
If it's a question of money,
My professional charges are on a fixed scale. I do not vary them, except when I remit them altogether.
Holmes, surely you can let other matters subside.
You know my methods. I will do my best to settle my prior obligations as quickly as possible. In the meantime, I shall leave Watson here to look out for you, Sir Henry.
Whatever you think is best.
Please follow his advice. I trust him implicitly. You will communicate anything of interest to me in London.
You can depend on it.
On one point, I must demand complete fidelity.
What is it?
Under no circumstances would you venture onto the moor at night. I cannot impress the importance of this enough.
Then you do believe the legend?
You understand, Watson?
I understand.
There's something in the air that disturbs me.
The air. What's in the air, Mr. Holmes?
The scent of murder, Sir Henry. Murder.
You wanted to see me, Dr. Watson.
Oh, Barrymore. Yes, there you are. I'm not quite sure how to put this.
Sir?
I mean, I'm not altogether sure of what I heard. Last night, close to midnight, did you hear the sound of a woman sobbing?
I did not.
Ah.
Perhaps it was the wind. The wind racing on the moor makes all sorts of strange noises.
No, the sound definitely came from inside the house. I was wondering if it could have perhaps been Mrs. Barrymore.
My wife and I share the same room, Doctor. If she were crying, I would have known.
Huh. Could it have been Perkins?
Highly unlikely. Perkins seldom spends the night. She lives with her family on the Grimpenmire Road.
You may be right. The wind racing on the moor.
I'm going into the village later this afternoon, Dr. Watson. Is there anything I might get for you?
No, thank you, Barrymore. I'll be going in myself.
Very good, sir.
Hang on a moment, Barrymore.
Sir?
You've been in service here for quite some time.
My father was the caretaker. My family has looked after the hall for 4 generations.
In that case, you know the families who reside on this moor quite well.
I do.
Well, I can see Lady Agatha's cottage right over here, and I can see Baskerville Hall clearly marked. But who lives here, northeast of the Great Rocks?
That would be Mr. Franklin.
Franklin. Elderly man. Choleric. With a beard.
You've met him then.
Bumped into at the post office. Disagreeable sort.
His passion is for the British law.
Sues people, they tell me.
He spent a considerable fortune in litigation. Mr. Franklin fights for the mere pleasure of fighting. He's ready to take up either side of a question as long as he can have his day in court.
I know the sort. What about this cottage here?
That's Mr. Franklin and his sister.
Ah, Sir Henry's young friend.
Yes,
What's she like?
quite lively.
And her brother?
I've only met him on one occasion, on the moor, chasing butterflies.
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 Right. So, what we have close by are the homes of the Stapletons, Lady Agatha, and Mr. Franklin.
There are other cottages on the moor, but they're in bad repair, quite unlivable.
If you don't mind me saying so, Barrymore, things seem a little backwards in this region.
Sir Charles was doing his best to remedy the situation. That's why his death was such a loss.
Mr. Franklin lives alone.
He does now.
No family.
He has a daughter.
Where is she?
That would be Sir Henry.
What about Mr. Franklin's daughter?
And Miss Stapleton's with them.
Never mind about Miss Stapleton. Tell me about Mr. Franklin's daughter.
Her name was Laura.
Why are you making such a mystery out of it?
Never mind the flowers. Need a bit of lunch.
You seem to have been enjoying yourself.
Kathy took me on a tour of the old huts. The moor is riddled with old mine shafts too. I didn't know that. Yes, Barrymore?
I was wondering if I might have a word.
Certainly. What is it?
Oh. I'll go and introduce myself to your young friend.
We won't be long. Well, Barrymore, what is it?
My wife and I would be happy, Sir Henry, to stay with you until you have made fresh arrangements.
What does that mean?
Under the new conditions this house will be under, you'll be needing considerable staff.
I wish I knew what you were driving at. What new conditions?
I only meant that Sir Charles led a retired life, and we were able to look after his wants. You would naturally wish for more company, and so will need a change in household.
I'm quite comfortable with you and your wife. And isn't Perkins of some help?
Perkins is a village girl, sir, not terribly bright, not accustomed to service. So few are these days.
What you're really trying to say is, you and your wife wish to leave.
Only when it is convenient for you, sir.
This is bad news. I'm sorry to begin my life here by breaking an old family connection.
My wife and I were both attached to Sir Charles. His death gave us a shock.
Well, it didn't exactly give me a sense of security, Barrymore.
No, but I fear my wife and I will never again be easier in our minds here at Baskerville Hall.
What do you intend to do?
We shall establish ourselves a business of some sort. Sir Charles's generosity has given us the means to do so.
I won't try to stop you, but we'll talk about this later.
Very good, sir.
Is it safe?
Barrymore's left, if that's what you mean.
Come along, Doctor. The coast is clear. We ought to put these in water.
I'll ring for Perkins.
They don't last long. It's a pity.
Yes, it is. The moor needs color.
Aren't they lovely, Doctor?
They are when you hold them, my dear.
Did you hear that, Henry? The doctor knows how to dispense compliments as well as pills.
So, what was all that business with the Barrymores?
The Barrymores wish to leave.
What?
That's what he told me.
I thought the Barrymores came with the wallpaper.
So did I.
That will present a problem. Villagers don't like to work on the moor.
One can hardly blame them. I'm grateful Baskerville Hall has modern plumbing, but I'd feel more at home if it had any signal.
There's no signal on the moor, only in the village.
That sense of isolation doesn't trouble you.
Nothing troubles Kathy.
That's not true, especially when the mist is thick. It frightens me.
The moor is an odd place to find such a lovely creature.
I quite agree.
I can't help but wonder why such a vital young woman would want to tuck herself away in this corner of England.
It wasn't exactly by choice. My brother and I had a school in the North Country. It seems the fates were against us.
How so?
A serious epidemic broke out in the school. 2 of the boys never recovered.
It's bad luck indeed.
Our capital was used up, and poor Jack was devastated. He hasn't recovered yet. Still, the moor is perfect for him.
Why?
He has an avid interest in botany and zoology. He keeps his mind occupied and expenses are minimal. We have our books, we have our studies, and we have interesting neighbors.
Oh, put this in the water, will you, Perkins?
Yes, Sir Henry.
No, just bring a vase. I'll arrange them myself.
Yes, miss. It's been seen again, Doctor.
What?
The Hound.
We'll talk later, Perkins. Go along now.
Wait!
Let me deal with this, Sir Henry.
There's no point in trying to protect my sensibilities. Doctor, what did you mean, the Hound?
It's only that Dr. Watson asked me to report anything I heard in the village.
What did you hear?
It's not what I heard, Sir Henry. It's what Mr. Blake saw and heard.
Blake?
The greengrocer. The man's adult.
Well, what did he see and hear?
Well, he was on his bicycle, and then he heard a long, low moan sweep over the moor.
I've heard it once or twice myself.
What?
The bogs make odd noises. It's the mud settling or the water rising or something.
That's not what Mr. Blake said.
My own guess would be that of bittern booming.
Good gracious. What is that?
A very rare bird. Practically extinct in England now. But all things are possible on the moor. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's what Mr. Blake heard was the cry of the last of the bitterns.
That'll be all, Perkins.
Yes, Sir Henry.
Seems like all the servants are in something of a mood.
I was trying to talk to Barrymore earlier about old Franklin's daughter, but he pointedly avoided the subject.
He's not one for gossip.
It's a rather sad situation. She married an artist named Leon, who came sketching on the moor. He proved to be a blackguard and deserted her. Her father refused to have anything to do with her because she married without his consent.
I wonder why Barrymore couldn't have told me as such.
When you've been here a while, you'll realize these people are clannish and protective of one another.
If you'll excuse me, I'm going to have a word or two with Mrs. Barrymore.
It seems I have come into an inheritance with a vengeance.
I wouldn't pay attention to village chatter. They're a superstitious lot.
The Hound is the pet story of my family.
That's a bad joke, Henry.
I've heard of the beast ever since I was in the nursery. I never thought of taking it so seriously.
You're not thinking of doing so now.
This business with my uncle confuses me. It seems like this whole thing is boiling up in my head and I just can't get it clear yet.
There's a sane, rational explanation for everything that's happened. Here, for you. I couldn't resist it.
It's a beauty.
I saw the watch in a jeweler's window. The letter B is engraved on the back.
You're too generous. You won't save money giving gifts to me.
This gift is special.
Then I must secure something extra special for you. I thought I'd find no one on this desolate moor but rustics and eccentrics.
I'm on the moor.
You're no eccentric, and far from being a rustic.
I will thank you to keep your attentions from my sister, Sir Henry.
Jack, what's the matter with you?
I will deal with you later.
Stop it!
You're behaving badly, aren't you, Stapleton?
How I am behaving is my own concern.
What is the matter with you?
Just because you're rich and you have a title, you think you can do what you want.
I'm not going to stay and listen to you!
Rich, powerful, you are all the same.
Kathy!
You will stay away from her. She is not for you.
It's no concern of yours. I shall see her as often as she permits it.
And I will see that she does not permit it.
Who do you think you are?
I will not warn you again. Stay away from Kathy.
And I'll thank you to stay away from Baskerville Hall!
What was that all about?
Stapleton, the man's a lunatic. Came in here in a rage and he saw me and Kathy together. My feelings towards his sister are nothing for me to be ashamed of. He drove her away in tears. Why should he object to me?
Perhaps he's on the verge of a mental breakdown. Remember, he hasn't been well.
He's likely to hurt Kathy.
Be careful!
I'm not afraid of Stapleton and his bad temper.
Here's the vase for your flowers, miss. Where's Miss Kathy gone, Doctor?
Oh, gone.
And the flowers?
They're over there, on the sofa.
I wasn't allowed to finish, sir. About Mr. Blake. He didn't only hear the hound,
Oh,
he saw it too.
when?
Last night, sir.
Sit down, sit down. How did he describe it?
It was more like a great dark shape than anything, moving so fast that Mr. Blake feared for his own life.
If it were only a great dark shape, how could he be sure of what he saw?
Because his eyes were fiery red, and he was breathing flame. Do you believe him, sir?
Yes, Perkins. I'm sorry to say I do.
Why, sir?
Because I myself saw what Mr. Blake saw on the moor last night.
The Hound of the Baskervilles.
No, Perkins. A hound from hell.
Good evening, Sir Hugo.
Dr. Watson? Are you back? What's happened to the lights?
I'll put them on at once, sir.
Oh, so it's you, Barrymore.
Yes, sir.
What were you doing in the dark?
The dark. Sir Henry?
You have an annoying habit of repeating things.
Actually, sir, the truth is, I'm afraid I fell asleep.
That's most unlike you.
I suffer from headache, sir. I felt a bit faint. I thought if I rested for a moment, I'd feel better. When I awoke, the dark had settled in.
If you say so. I was looking for the weekly journal.
My wife has it, sir. It came with yesterday's post.
I'd like to see it then.
At once, Sir Henry.
Who's there? Who is it? Dr. Watson? Is that you?
Your weekly
No!
journals. Sir Henry, there's no need to jump at me.
It's just you, Perkins.
I thought you might like some warm milk. I brought a picture in a mug.
That's thoughtful. How is it that you're still here?
The mist rolled in too fast for me. I don't cross the moor on nights like this. I sleep in the small room at the end of the west wing.
Have you done that recently?
Sir?
Have you stayed over in the last few weeks?
Once.
I wonder, Perkins, did you hear anyone crying?
Crying? Well, I don't think so, sir. I'm a sound sleeper, of course. At that end of the house, one might as well be in a tomb. The walls are that thick.
Tomb is exactly what this place feels like at times.
I'll light a fire, sir.
No, I'll take care of it.
Very good, Sir Henry.
It's a miserable night out.
Did you walk back from the village?
I did.
I hope you carried a torch, Dr. Watson.
Oh, certainly not. I have excellent night sight. Comes from eating carrots. You should try it, Perkins.
Oh, can't abide carrots, sir. I don't like the sound of the crunch.
These villagers are everything Cathy Stapleton said they were. Imagine not liking the sound of carrots crunch. Queer creature.
What news from Holmes?
Oh, it's positively infuriating.
How so?
Every time I try to contact London, I just get his answering machine.
Surely he's back in London by now.
I should hope so. But if we don't hear from him in the next day or so, then I think a brief holiday would do us both some good.
You mean a trip to London?
Yes, of course. You would have to come with me. Can't leave you here all alone.
I appreciate everything you're doing for me, Dr. Watson, but I'm not ready for a London outing. Whatever it is that's terrifying Baskerville Hall, I intend to stick it out.
In that case, I will remain here also.
Did you see anyone outside?
When?
On your way back.
The mist is as thick as guilt. Can't see anything out there. I can't see what Lady Agatha sees in the place.
A bit like Kathy and her brother. Lost almost everything in bad investments a few years back.
I didn't know that. But Kathy doesn't seem the type to suit the big city. I never felt she could be comfortable with the rush.
More milk. Don't suppose you'd care for a mug?
Milk? No. No. Why did you ask what you did? About if there was anyone outside?
I thought I saw something. At the French doors, they were opened.
They're closed now.
I closed them.
Was there anybody inside when you came in?
Yes. Barrymore was here just before I came downstairs. He said he fell asleep. In the dark.
Huh. He's an odd one.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I don't know what he was doing in this room, but I certainly don't believe that he was sleeping.
He's evasive with my questions. Yet the Barrymores and Lady Agatha were the only witnesses the night your poor uncle met his death. It's certain to me that as long as there are no Baskervilles in this house, then Barrymore has a mighty fine home and nothing to do. No need to eavesdrop in the shadows, Barrymore. Come out where we can see you.
Mrs. Barrymore, do you make a habit of listening in on other people's conversation?
No, Sir Henry, I do not.
Would you care to explain your extraordinary behaviour?
You're thinking ill of my husband.
And what if we are?
He's a loyal retainer, as I am. He would never do anything to harm you in any way, Sir Henry.
There's cold comfort in that. What is that?
I should have spoken out before, but it was long after the inquest that I found it. I've never breathed a word about it to anyone, not even to my husband. I wonder, may I sit down? I'm not feeling at my best.
Certainly.
I know why Sir Charles is on the moor.
Well?
He was to meet a woman.
I don't believe it.
The letter arrived the morning of your uncle's death from the village of Tracy Coombs.
How long have you known this note existed?
Only a few weeks ago I was clearing out Sir Charles's study. It hadn't been touched since his death. I found the burnt ashes of a letter in the back of the grate. Most of it was charred to pieces, but one little slip at the end of the page hung together.
Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be by the gate on the moor at 10 o'clock.
How can you be sure this is the same letter that arrived that morning?
There was a silver trim on the border of the envelope. The same trim as on the bottom of the notepaper Dr. Watson holds.
What was the woman's name?
No name.
Only the initials LL.
I can't understand why you'd want to conceal this information, Mrs. Barrymore.
Well, sir, we were both of us devoted to Sir Charles, as what might be considered all he done for us. To rake this up couldn't help our poor master, and it's well to go carefully when there's a lady in the case.
In other words, you thought this communication would somehow compromise Sir Charles's reputation.
I hope I've done the right thing at last.
You have.
If you have no more questions...
Later, perhaps.
What is it?
I was thinking how the evil legacy of Sir Hugo hangs on.
It would have been better if he'd never been born.
Little late for that. What do you make of this? LL.
Laura Leon's.
Old Franklin's daughter. Of course.
There's someone out there!
Outside the house.
Yes!
No need for that, Sir Henry. I have a revolver.
No need to weaponry, gentlemen. Your intruder is an ally.
Holmes?
We thought you were in London!
Which is exactly what I wanted you to think.
Did you know about this?
Certainly not.
How is he here?
Thank you. I think you'd be more comfortable seated, Watson. And I'd appreciate it if you pointed that revolver in another direction.
I've never been more glad to see anyone in my life.
Where have you been?
On the moor?
Since when?
Well, since the day Lady Agatha invited us for tea.
Then you've never left?
That is correct.
You might have trusted me to keep your confidence.
Oh, my dear fellow, you've been invaluable to me in this, as in many other cases. But in your kindness, you may have brought me out some comfort or other. An unnecessary risk would be run.
You underestimate me, Holmes.
Never! I know, my dear Watson, that you share my love for all that is bizarre and outside the conventions and humdrum of everyday life. I trust you've kept notes, jotted everything down.
I have.
Splendid.
Still don't understand your need for deception.
If I were to stay with you and Sir Henry, my view would have been the same as yours. My presence would have warned the menace to be on its guard. In one disguise or another, I moved about quite freely.
What did you learn on the moor?
Considerable.
That doesn't tell us much.
What's after me, Mr. Holmes? Human or supernatural? Flesh and blood? Or the devil?
For the time being, I'm afraid I'll have to hold that question in abeyance.
Why do you avoid answering me?
In a modest way, I have combated evil. But to take on the father of evil himself may perhaps be too ambitious a task. Now, Sir Henry, did you see anyone in the room earlier? Anyone in the dark?
Yes,
Who?
Barrymore.
You mean Mrs. Barrymore?
No, it was Barrymore.
Oh. Sir Henry, have you been conscious of a presence somewhere in this house from time to time?
I have.
The place has an eerie quality about it. It's a perfectly natural reaction.
I think I can prove you wrong, Watson. Did Barrymore have a flashlight with him?
I'm sure he didn't.
Did you disturb him when he went into the room?
I think I did.
Ah, the desk. The perfect hiding place for the unimaginative mind taken unaware.
Mr. Holmes, I know the contents of that desk. There's no flashlight in there.
It is a capital mistake, Sir Henry, to theorize before you have all the evidence.
Eureka! So Barrymore had a flashlight. What does that tell us?
I expected better of you, Watson. Think, man.
He was looking for something. In the dark. He didn't want to be discovered.
No. Sir Henry, what he was after was not in this room. It was out there, on the moor. Watson, the lights. Come close, Sir Henry. I shall now demonstrate that my time on the moor has been put to good use. Keep your eyes focused on that near clump of rocks.
How can we? The mist has blocked out everything.
Not quite.
What are you doing?
I should think that's fairly obvious.
You're signaling someone.
Who?
Ah, that is only one part of the puzzle.
There's a light out there.
They're responding to your signal, Holmes.
No, Watson, not my signal.
I've had enough of this. Who or whatever is out there means to do me harm, and I intend to put a stop to it.
No, Sir Henry, that is precisely what they wish you to do. Remember my warning? You must not venture onto the moor at night.
What's out there, Mr. Holmes? You know, don't you?
There is more evil surrounding Baskerville Hall than I have ever encountered before.
Listen!
It can't be.
I fear it is. The horror that killed Sir Charles is prowling the moor once again.
If you'll come in here, my dear, and sit down, I'll tell Mr. Holmes you're here.
You might also tell him that my time is as valuable as his. I would prefer not to be kept waiting.
I'll tell him.
I saw you driving by the cottage. I thought you might stop in.
I plan to on my way back.
You really shouldn't drive that car of yours in these old dog roads. They are fit for nothing but pony tricks.
I wouldn't do it at night.
You could skip into the mire.
You do worry about me, don't you?
When you let me.
You must be in good terms with Sir Henry.
What makes you say that?
The way you walk into his home.
The moor is free and easy about such things.
Nothing's easy on the moor, Jack.
Have you come to pay your respects to Sir Henry?
Why should I? I'm no longer a neighbour at Baskerville Hall.
So, how are you doing?
Perhaps I can answer that. Mrs. Stapleton, I called Mrs. Lyons and asked for this meeting. There's no need to trouble yourself, my dear. I plan to see you in Tracy Coons.
I'll be spending some time with a friend, so thought I would save you the trouble.
Friend here on the moor, you mean?
Lady Agatha.
Ah, yes, my associate Dr. Watson is at her cottage now. I had no idea she was that social.
But perhaps I should have made an appointment.
Not at all, my dear. Your arrival is most opportune. Sorry I haven't taken you up on your invitation to view your insect collection, Stapleton. A situation I do hope to remedy.
Well, you will find my collection to be most special.
Mr. Stapleton and I met on the moor not long ago. He was in pursuit of a grizzled skipper butterfly.
It escaped my net.
Oh, pity. Are you here to see Sir Henry?
My sister and I. Yes.
Might try the potting shed. Me and Barrymore were there earlier.
Will you give me a ride back when you leave?
Happy to.
I have only a few things to say to Sir Henry. I won't be too long.
Old friends.
Mr. Stapleton has been exceedingly helpful.
Won't you sit down?
There's a great deal of excitement in the village.
Oh?
Police have traced a dangerous convict to the moor. Apparently he escaped from Princeton prison some time ago.
Ah, yes, that would be Selden, the Notting Hill murderer.
You're well informed, Mr. Holmes.
Well, in some circles, there's considerable doubt as to his sanity.
Sane or insane, the farmers hereabout don't like it.
But I understand they get £100 if they can give information.
The chance of £100 is a poor thing compared to the chance of having one's throat cut. Surely we're not to discuss a convict who may or may not be insane.
I understand you had the pleasure of knowing Sir Charles.
Yes?
And I had the pleasure of knowing your father.
I don't know what you're driving at, Mr. Holmes. There is nothing in common between my father and me. I owe him nothing, and his friends are not mine. If it were not for Sir Charles and some other kind hearts, I might have starved for all my father cared.
Did you ever write to Sir Charles?
Why are you asking these questions?
I assure you, Mrs. Lyons, they are necessary.
I wrote to him, once or twice, to thank him for his kindness.
Kindness? Would you care to explain?
I've already explained as much. He contributed money so I could set up a small shop in Tracy Coombs.
Have you the dates of those letters?
Dates? No.
Did you ever write to Sir Charles, asking him to meet you?
That's an odd question.
I intend to repeat it. Did you ever write to Sir Charles, asking him to meet you?
No.
Not on the day of his death?
No.
Surely your memory deceives. I could even quote a passage of your communication. It ran, "Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be at the gate by 10 o'clock.
Then he didn't do as I asked.
You do Sir Charles an injustice. He did burn the letter. Most of it in any case.
All right. I wrote it. I wished for him to assist me further. I thought if I could get an interview with him, I could gain his help. So I asked him to meet me.
At an hour when the moor is deserted and dark.
The hour seemed unimportant.
You asked him to meet you outside the house.
What does it matter? I never went.
Why?
A private matter. It concerns only me.
But why deny you wrote the letter?
Obvious, I should think. Gossip.
Okay. So you admit you made an appointment with Sir Charles at the hour and place he met his death.
I do.
Yet you deny you kept the appointment.
Yes.
Is that all you wish to tell me?
Mr. Holmes, that is all I am going to tell you. I'll wait for Mr. Stapleton in the car.
Remarkable woman. Not to the manner born, but giving an excellent imitation.
You are a bloodhound in the true sense of the word, Mr. Holmes.
There are 75 perfumes which it is very necessary that a criminal expert be able to distinguish from each other. Miss Lyon's favours none.
How did you find her?
I didn't. She found me. I must say she isn't quite what I expected.
And what did you expect?
Someone less sure of herself.
I saw you walking over the moor from my window.
It's Jack. He has something to say. He went looking for you.
I'm afraid I misdirected into the potting shed.
Jack! He's already on his way back.
The shoe doesn't fit properly?
It fits, but there's only one.
Oh, well, where is its companion?
Haven't the slightest idea.
I should have returned long before this, sorry.
You have something to say to me?
I do. It's rather personal.
Well, anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of Mr. Holmes.
Oh! My presence is not required.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Oh, and you will come and see my insect collection before you leave. I am anxious for your reaction.
Oh, you may count on it.
My brother would like to apologize for his temper.
I would prefer to speak for myself.
I didn't mean to speak for you, Jack.
Then don't. You must understand the thought of losing my sister. Well, it was hard for me. She is all the family I have. I've seen your advances and thought you were using your position and title to impress her.
Nothing could have been further from my intent.
I know that now.
I must tell you, Stapleton, I have every intention of marrying your sister. She's told you?
She has. I will withdraw all opposition, as long as you are willing to wait 3 months to ensure this marriage is what you truly want. I have seen one unhappy marriage on the moor. I have no desire to see another. My sister's happiness is my only concern.
Kathy is no Laura Leon's. And I am no idle painter of pastoral scenes.
So it's agreed. 3 months.
What must be, must be. 3 months.
Wonderful.
Will you be riding back with Laura and I, Kathy?
I'll walk back.
I'm not sure that's wise. The convict could still be looking.
I'll make sure that Kathy gets home without incident.
Thank you, Sir Henry. I wonder, would you care to dine with us at the cottage tomorrow evening?
Delighted.
I'll go find Laura.
I'm not sure I like the provisions of 3 months, but if it'll make things easier with your brother, I won't argue.
I knew he'd come around.
Kathy, have you always been afraid of your brother?
Yes, I think I have.
He's never harmed you in any way.
I was surprised to find that Laura was here.
So was Mr. Holmes, I think.
Mrs. Barrymore said you were looking for me, sir.
I can't find my other shoe.
Isn't this the pair you gave me yesterday to clean?
Barrymore brought them to my room last night, and when I put them on just now, I could only find one.
I can't imagine where the other one is, sir.
My favorite pair.
I'll turn the place upside down.
No. Just, no need to do that. Just see if you can find the mate.
I'll try, Sir Henry. Will you be staying for tea, miss?
If Sir Henry has no objection.
You'll be seeing a great deal of Miss Stapleton around Baskerville Hall in the coming weeks. Parkins.
That will be nice, Sir Henry. Especially if the Barrymores leave. I wouldn't like to be the only woman here. I scare easily.
Are they really leaving?
Not immediately. Can't say I blame them. Kathy, you do understand the danger, don't you? The curse of the Baskervilles? Oh, I try and pretend everything's normal and act according, but there's a sword hanging over my head, ready to drop at any minute.
Henry, whatever this thing is, we'll defeat it together. Mr. Holmes will allow no harm to come to you. You've got to believe that.
I try.
I'll see if I can't arrange a nice bouquet for the tray. The wildflowers are almost done for this time of year.
Don't be long.
I beg your pardon, Miss Stapleton.
No harm done.
I've taken an inventory of everything in the potting shed, Sir Henry. You'll be needing some new tools.
You haven't exactly been honest with me, have you, Barrymore?
About the inventory.
No.
I'm afraid I don't understand, sir.
Your family has lived with mine under this roof for generations. But now I find you in some dark plot against me?
I assure you, Sir Henry, you have no reason to think such a thing.
Haven't I?
Beg pardon, Sir Henry. Perkins says there's something amiss with one of your shoes. What's wrong?
Sir Henry believes I engaged in some dark plot against him.
I'm not fooled by your tricks, Barrymore. With a flashlight at the window? And sit down, Mrs. Barrymore. You look unwell.
No, sir. You misunderstand. No plot against you.
Mr. Holmes! Mr. Holmes!
We have to go. This is the end of it. You can pack our things.
I've brought us to this. It's my doing, Sir Henry, all mine. My husband has done nothing except for my sake and because I asked him.
What does that mean?
My wife speaks the truth. If there was a plot, it was not against you.
My unhappy brother is starving on the moor.
We couldn't let him perish.
You mean your brother is
The escaped convict, sir.
Sir Henry, I expressly asked that you leave this matter to me. I told you nothing to fear from the light on the moor.
I think, Mr. Holmes, it's about time I took a hand in all this.
That would be a most unwise maneuver.
Selden was my younger brother. We humoured him when he was a lad and gave him his own way in everything. When he grew older, he fell in with a bad lot. The devil was in him. From crime to crime, he sank lower and lower.
He's quite mad.
Don't say that.
He came here for help.
Dragged himself here one night, starving. I couldn't refuse to help him.
Mr. Holmes, haven't you overstepped yourself enough? Selden is a wanted criminal. Dangerous.
I can assure you, Sir Henry, Selden is dangerous to no one but himself. His mind, yes, most certainly is deranged, but in a childlike manner. He's not the same man as when he murdered. My guess would be drug damage. I've seen cases like this before. Oh, yes. Selden will end his days as little more than a vegetable, passive, frightened, disorientated. No harm will come to him, Mrs. Barrymore. If he's in danger of apprehension, I've instructed him to come to Baskerville Hall immediately.
You've talked to him then?
He's been on the moor for some weeks, and he has proved invaluable to me. A fact I shall relay on to the authorities.
What is it, Perkins?
I found this under the door, sir, in the kitchen, but when I looked, there was nobody there.
Let me have it.
One moment, Sir Henry. Are you in the custom of receiving mail in this manner?
Under the kitchen door? Certainly not.
Give me the letter, Perkins. Curious.
What is it?
Unless I'm very much mistaken, this is the same stationery used for your London warning.
What's the message?
If you value your life, leave Baskerville Hall tonight. There'll be no further warning.
The words taken from a newspaper and stuck to the page?
Not this time, it's handwritten. And it's signed.
Signed?
Signed, Lady Agatha Mortimer.
We'll soon discover the mystery, Lady Agatha.
I trust so. It's a nuisance being called away at this hour.
Ah, there you are, Holmes.
Ah, I see Barrymore reached you. Could you come, Lady Agatha?
He said it was urgent.
Oh, it is.
That is Holmes. We haven't even sat down to dinner yet.
My apologies.
I'm famished.
You make too much of food, Watson. You should follow my example. I'm perfectly content with a roast beef sandwich and a cryptogram.
Unfortunately, I can't eat cryptograms. And it wasn't a roast beef sandwich. It was a steak and kidney pie, my favourite. Lady Agatha was expecting guests as well. I was looking forward to the company.
Laura Leons.
She hadn't arrived by the time Barrymore called.
Odd. She left Baskerville Hall some hours ago.
Not to learn. They suspect that escaped convict is still on the moor.
Oh, not to worry. Stapleton was with her.
He knows the moor as well as anyone.
No one knows the moors as well as you, Lady Agatha.
You've discovered something of importance, haven't you, Holmes? That's why you sent Barrymore.
Holmes, I think your holiday away to this part of the country was carefully planned. I don't think you were interested in those smelly old huts at all. I think you were only ever interested in Baskerville Hall.
Watson, if you'd be so kind.
Outrageous!
I take it you disown authorship.
If you value your life, leave Baskerville Hall tonight. There'll be no further warning. Why, whoever signed this hasn't the remotest idea of my handwriting style.
I suspect as much. Are you familiar with your guest's handwriting?
Watson here is a bold hand.
I wasn't referring to Dr. Watson, I meant Laura Leon's.
I'm quite familiar with her penmanship. Laura did not write this message.
Why would anyone attempt to sign Lady Agatha's name and not even make an attempt at a good forgery?
To delay investigation? Possibly. I don't think the signature is important. The writer was intent on pressing the warning. The net draws tighter.
Well, it settles one issue.
Which is?
Well, there's no supernatural force involved in this ugly business.
Oh, well then, how do you account for this beast you described me? What was it? Dripping with a bluish flame? Eyes rimmed with fire?
I've forgotten about him.
I haven't.
The mole plays tricks, Dr. Watson. You saw something you mistook for the spectre.
Well, you've certainly changed your tune. I know what I saw.
Oh, well then, are we to assume your spectral beast can also wield pen and ink?
You're being rude, Holmes.
No need to take offence.
Positively rude.
I take it you have suspicions about Laura.
Suspicions about many things. Were you aware she was in correspondence with Sir Charles?
No.
Were you aware Barrymore was in London the exact time Sir Henry received the first warning?
Barrymore never leaves the moor.
You are mistaken. I have it on authority that he left Baskerville Hall during Sir Henry's London stay.
What authority?
A gentleman on the moor.
You mean Jack Stapleton?
You'll be casting your doubts on me next, Mr. Holmes. You don't think I had handed this?
You did leave out one extremely revealing fact when you first called upon my assistance.
I told you everything.
Everything?
I'm not in the habit of lying.
You forgot to mention one salient point. You are executrix of Sir Charles's estate.
What if I am?
Well, if any misfortune should befall Sir Henry, who has yet to make a will, oh my, you would be in a most enviable situation.
You go too far, Holmes.
On the contrary, I don't go far enough.
Not telling you was an oversight on my part, nothing more.
Indeed.
You know of my bad financial situation.
Thanks to Watson here.
He always did have a rather large mouth.
I protest. Quiet.
Mr. Holmes, have you seen Sir Henry about?
It's close to the house.
What about Sir Henry?
He's not in his room.
Where could he have got to?
The Hound. Come, Watson. We may be too late.
What is it? What's wrong?
Get Barrymore!
Barrymore!
Stop asking questions. Do as you're told. Be quick about it. Yes, ma'am.
Perkins remembered something about the Hound and Sir Henry.
Oh! What are you doing?
I was going to light a fire. It's not important now. We need your husband. Where is he?
Perkins is fetching him. Where are Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson?
They've gone onto the moor.
They're not going to harm him. Mr. Holmes promised to protect him.
Who are you talking about?
He's like a child now. He would never hurt anybody.
Oh, Barrymore! They'll need help. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, they've gone after Sir Henry. He's out there.
But Sir Henry never goes in the moor at night.
Don't waste time.
Use a strong light in the whole chest. They mustn't harm him.
Why should they want to do harm to Sir Henry? You don't talk sense, woman.
Not Sir Henry, my brother. He's been out there for weeks.
Brother?
Selden. The Notting Hill murderer.
convict who has the countryside terrified.
Yes?
He's been out there all this time and you've done nothing!
Mr. Holmes said you would help him.
It's not your brother they went after, it's the Hound!
Oh, this place is cursed. I never wanted to believe it, but it's true.
Stop talking rubbish! I better see if there's a need for me.
No, don't need me.
I'm gonna set it in for you!
It has a good beat of the fog.
Afraid that will be of no help.
Sir Henry?
Dead.
Impossible!
If only that were true. I'd never heard screams like it from any man or woman. The beast had bitten and he clawed and he chewed.
Dr. Watson, please.
Forgive my nerves, I've never experienced anything like this. The supernatural is quite beyond me.
But what could have possessed him to go onto the moor after all the warnings?
I don't know. He tried to flee, but the beast was too swift.
Uncle and nephew murdered. One frightened to death by the sight of the beast.
The other driven to his end in his flight to escape from it. I'll be along in a moment. Give him a hand, will you, Barrymore?
Better bring the body in here.
Oh, that won't be necessary.
There can be no mistake. He's dead.
No, there's no mistake.
Poor Sir Henry.
Ah, yes. I'm afraid your sympathy is rather misplaced. You will have to prepare yourself for another shock.
How do you mean, sir?
In his distress, Watson neglected to wait for my complete report. True, a man is dead, but it is a man with a beard.
Beard.
I regret having to bring you this information.
It's my brother, isn't it?
Yup.
Why would the Hound attack Selden?
Ah, he attacked a scent. Selden was wearing one of Sir Henry's hunting jackets.
I can explain. A woman from the church committee asked if we had anything we might donate for a bazaar. Sir Henry gave some of his old clothes, among other things.
They were warm and comfortable. I thought, why should others have them when my brother was in rags and cold on the moor?
I have no need to reproach yourself.
Perhaps it is for the best. I only wish he didn't die so horribly.
Perkins found me, said I was wanted.
Where have you been?
We feared for your life.
You promised never to go onto the moors at night.
I was in the potting shed. Any prohibition against that, Mr. Holmes?
None.
Why do you all look so strange?
It's my wife's brother, sir. Selden.
Savaged by the beast.
Then that means the curse doesn't just affect the Baskervilles.
I wish that were true.
Wait, what connection does Selden have with me?
He was wearing your hunting jacket, sir.
The one you donated to the church sale.
The Hound had your scent.
How could he get my scent in the first place?
When you deal with the supernatural, ordinary explanations are useless.
I'm afraid I can't agree.
What choice have you?
An investigator needs facts, not myth or rumours. This has not been a satisfactory case.
Can't you promise any hope?
Oh, I can promise you something far more startling than hope, Sir Henry.
What?
By tomorrow, the curse of the Baskervilles will either be broken, or
Or
someone in this room will be dead.
Makes me feel strange. Writing all this down.
It's important, Sir Henry, to keep one's affairs in order.
No argument there. Only that I've never been concerned over a will before.
You'll feel the better for it.
Will I?
Certainly. I can't imagine why Holmes went to see Lady Agatha this afternoon. Yesterday he practically accused her of being implicated.
At least we're done with that ghastly business with Selden.
You're dining with the Stapletons this afternoon.
Unless Mr. Holmes has another objection to that. I can't help but think this will is a prelude to my...
Trust Holmes.
I do. Intellectually. Emotionally, I'm tight as a knot inside.
We are leaving now, sir.
There's nothing I can do to change your minds?
I'm afraid not. I think it best my wife and I started a new life elsewhere.
I understand. Goodbye, Barrymore.
Thank you, Sir Henry.
Goodbye, Mrs. Barrymore.
Sir Henry.
You'll write to me and let me know how things are going?
Of course. We don't want to miss the train. Goodbye, Dr. Watson.
Goodbye. Luck to the both of you.
They'll be fine. They did well by my uncle's will.
Handsomely. Still, I never trusted Barrymore. Didn't realise there were trains at this hour.
Train? A train? What does a train matter? Forgive me. I'm tense.
So I'll understand it. You've been under a lot of strain recently. And Holmes is up in his room smelling his foul-smelling tobacco. He says this is a six-pipe case.
I am sorry to intrude like this. Mrs. Barrymore's pleasure come right in. I'm Mrs. Lyons, Mr. Franklin's daughter.
I've heard of you. This is Dr. Watson.
Oh yes, Lady Agatha's comrade. She speaks highly of you.
I'm sorry to have missed you the other night. Won't you take a seat?
I must see Mr. Holmes. It's important.
I'll get him.
Thank you.
You're not afraid to cross the moor?
I understood they captured the convict.
That's true.
You mean the storm?
I mean, the Hound.
It's not the other world that will hurt one, Sir Henry. It's the living.
I believe I heard Mr. Holmes say you were from a village of Tracy Coombs.
I have a small shop.
I have a distant relative living there.
I've heard of no Baskervilles in the area.
Oh, no. The name is Desmond. He's an elderly clergyman. Can I actually get you something? I fear I'm understaffed at the moment. The maid leaves before dark and the Barrymores have deserted.
I saw the suitcases in their grip.
The place won't be the same without them.
I want you to know, Sir Henry, that I have the utmost respect for your uncle. He was kind, generous, and most thoughtful. His death disturbed me.
Mrs. Lyons, I expected to see you earlier than this.
You knew I'd return.
I hoped you would.
I'll give you guys some privacy.
Oh no, I think it's best you stay, Sir Henry. What Mrs. Lyons is about to reveal concerns you. Me? Well, your uncle to be precise.
You anticipate.
I'm a flawless judge of character, Mrs. Lyons. You did not impress me as the sort of female who could live comfortably with a serious life.
What are you driving at?
It's true, I wrote the letter to Sir Charles.
But on the instigation of another.
What other?
I...
God damn it!
I know what you communicated in our earlier interview, and also what you withheld in connection with this matter. I regard this case as one of murder, and the evidence may implicate not just your friend Jack Stapleton, but his wife as well.
His wife?
Wife? What are you saying?
The person who has passed for his sister is really his wife.
I don't believe it.
Nor I. He's not a married man.
Kathy unwittingly revealed the ruse when she told Watson of the school she and her brother ran in the North Country. I made inquiries of the school, and one of the employees sent on this photograph. 4 years ago it was taken. I think you'll recognise the couple, Mr. and Mrs. Stapleton, the employee addressing the identification on the back.
Let me see that. It's true.
Stapleton asked you to write that letter to entice Sir Charles out of the house.
He promised to marry me once my problems were settled.
Now I know why Kathy lives in fear of her brother.
That's why he went into a rage when he saw you and Kathy close together. He couldn't control the instincts of a jealous husband.
I swear to you when I wrote that letter, I never dreamed of any harm to the old gentleman. He'd been a good friend.
I take it the reason Stapleton gave was that you would receive help from Sir Charles, the legal expense connected with your divorce.
Yes.
And then, after you sent the letter, he dissuaded you from keeping the appointment?
Yes.
And then you heard nothing until you read of Sir Charles's death.
He said the death was a mysterious one, and that I should surely be implicated if the facts came out. He frightened me into remaining silent.
I think on the whole, my dear, you've had a fortunate escape. You had him in your power, but he knew it. And yet, you are alive.
I couldn't remain silent any longer.
The line between fear and love is often a thin one. As you've been honest with me, I shall be honest with you. You are still in danger.
He's going to hurt Kathy.
Not if everything falls into place. Time is the essential element. Watson, you will escort Mrs. Leons to Lady Agatha's cottage.
I can take care of myself.
You heard me, Watson.
Come along, my dear. You can trust my protection.
I was right, you know. Nothing's easy on the wall.
You must really be worried for her safety.
Oh, hang her safety. I really wanted some guarantee she wouldn't want Stapleton.
We must help Kathy.
You will do exactly as I instruct.
I'm ready.
You will walk to Stapleton's cottage and enjoy your dinner.
You can't be serious. I don't think I can face Jack Stapleton.
That is precisely what you must do. You will divulge the path you will take on your return. Clear?
Where will you be?
Nearby, within the hour.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Mr. Holmes! Wait a minute! Barrymore! Barrymore, come quick! Better get a hold of myself. They're all gone. Wait 1 hour. Of the origin of the Hound of the Baskervilles. There have been many statements. Know then that in the time of the Great Rebellion, this manor of Baskerville was held by Hugo of that name. No.
Good evening, Henry.
Kathy?
Yes, Kathy. Sweet, endearing, innocent.
What's wrong with you? I told Holmes I was afraid for your life. He knows you're married to Stapleton.
Does he? I'll have to deal with that in time.
You and Stapleton plotted all this together!
Jack, don't be a fool. He's weak. Never did a thing that I wasn't right there behind him. Pushing, insisting. The whole thing was my idea.
I don't understand.
He's the son of Roger Baskerville, the younger brother of Sir Charles, the one who supposedly fled to South America and died unmarried. Now, everything will be Jack's, which means mine.
He's my cousin?
It's outside the front door. Chained. I waited till the house was empty, till the morning was dark.
What is it?
You'll soon see. He's starved. I keep him that way. I'm going to release him.
No!
You have only one chance. On to the moor, Henry. Run, run, run. Outrace him if you can. It's your only hope.
No!
Run!
That would be for the Hound, Miss Stapleton.
What's happened to him?
Oh, well, I suspect the police have shot the doomed animal.
Ah!
I managed to persuade wardens and others out searching for Selden to remain in the area one more night.
Jack told you, didn't he?
Ah, you weren't quite as sure of him as you thought.
You haven't won yet, Mr. Holmes. There's always Grimpen Mire.
Kathy!
Oh, needn't worry, Sir Henry. Her melodramatic gesture is wasted. The house is completely surrounded.
How did you know that she'd be here and not the cottage?
An able assist from Lady Agatha. Earlier this evening, she tracked Cathy to where the Hound was secreted in an abandoned mine. And then later, when it was dark, she observed Cathy moving not to the cottage, but to this house.
Then there really was a hound?
An enormous dog. Gigantic. Part Mastiff, part Great Dane.
But the glow!
Phosphorus. And your missing shoe would supply the scent.
Stapleton, you did try to save my life?
Well, in his clumsy fashion. Selden told me that Stapleton too was off the moor during your London stay. Also, he gave himself away with that handwritten warning. I recognise the scroll as the same found on the catalogue cards he uses for his butterfly collection.
Holmes! Holmes! The police have stopped everybody on the moor.
Ah, yes. That would be a safety precaution. They'll pick up Jack Stapleton at the cottage. Cathy has been apprehended, judging from those whistles.
Cathy? What's she got to do with it?
How could Stapleton ever hope of claiming the inheritance?
Oh, well, in a number of ways. He could claim it from South America, establish identity with the British authorities there, or he might adopt an elaborate disguise during the short time he would need to be in London, or he might hire an accomplice to impersonate him, retaining a claim on some portion of the income.
I was so afraid you suspected me, I thought of burning the warning with my name on it.
Oh, needn't worry, Lady Agatha. I'm the last and highest court of appeal and detection, and I exonerate you.
Bit pompous, Holmes.
So, Cathy had no feelings for me at all?
If it's any consolation, Sir Henry, the most winning woman I had ever known in my life was hanged for poisoning 3 children for their insurance money. Oh, Michelle, she could dance the tango. Anyway, no time to waste. What's in it? Where to catch that last train?
Right now, this minute.
There was a most interesting message from Mrs. Hudson. Apparently, a retired officer from the Palace Guard is being blackmailed by some devilishly clever ruse. I suspect an organised ring with connections in Detroit.
But my things, my clothes.
Lady Agatha, if you'd be so kind as to see that Perkins packs everything away and sends it off to Baker Street.
First thing in the morning.
Come along, Watson. The game is afoot.
Man has no mercy.
Come back anytime. You're always welcome.